Hi guys, I just wanted to add a new playlist onto my writing channel. I wanted to add like a book review kind of area, because personally for me writing and reading definitely goes hand in hand, and I've always loved reading books, and I remember when I was little I have lots of memories of just always going to the library to get out as many books as my library card would allow, and I would read them really quickly and I'd be back again. And I just used to remember, like, whenever I would read a book, because personally for me it's almost like a movie that plays inside my head, so when I read everything else just kind of disappears. So when some people really struggle to read or they hate reading, it's like, I guess they don't see books the way that I do and other people do. So if you're a book lover, it's always fun to get a new book, and I just thought it would be nice to share with you guys like kind of the books I read, and I mean, they're really good for, you know, inspiration, learning different techniques, and actually seeing how published novels or short stories, whatever you like to read, like to see the format, and they can really help you with your own writing. So for my first video, I'm going to recommend one of my probably all-time favourite, although I've really struggled to pick favourite books, one of my all-time favourite books, The Book Thief. And I know the camera's going to make the title go back to front, but The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. I hope I pronounced his name right. Okay, so The Book Thief, the genre is historical fiction. I don't want to obviously give any big spoilers because that takes all the fun out of reading, but I'll just try to give you like a bit of a brief overview on what I personally took away from the novel. So it's a historical fiction novel based in Nazi Germany, and it follows the story of a young girl called Liesel, and she is German, but she's also a communist, and she ends up living with this old couple, Rosa and Hans Huberman. And if I get any of this wrong, it's because I haven't read this novel in a very long time, and also I'm like trying to go off my memory. So yeah, she gets adopted by this old couple, and it follows her story growing up in the little like town that they live in, and she meets many people along the way. There's a lot of, it's really hard trying to do this without like giving any big spoilers, but I guess I can tell you this bit. In the beginning, Liesel can't read. She can't read and she can't write. So her adopted dad, Hans, starts to teach her, and she develops a fascination with books. And this kind of progresses throughout the story. And she meets a particular character who she even writes her own stories, which I really liked her character. She was really creative, and that's another point about this book. What I love, like what Markus is really successful in doing, is every single character in this book has a purpose. Even the minor characters don't feel like they've been wasted. Every single character, no matter how big or small, has been picked for a specific purpose. And the main message that I got from this book, and why I would really recommend it, is that for me this novel is all about the power of words. And when I finished reading it, I thought to myself, I hope that one day I can produce a novel as beautiful as The Book Thief, because it's all about the power of words, and the idea that if Hitler didn't have the ability to speak, if he didn't have words to speak, he would have never been able to spread his like hate. And it's a truly wonderful book. It's like one of the best novels I've ever read, and it is my favourite genre because historical fiction's always been one of my favourite genres. But it was so different because sometimes historical fiction novels can be really heavy going, and well, an example of that would be what I studied for English literature, Captain Corelli's Mandolin. And by the end, it feels like you've wasted a lot of your time. It's not that it was a bad novel, it's just it was really heavy going, and although I really liked like the richly developed characters, some of the chapters just felt wasted, and it's almost like the author himself gave up towards the end. It's almost like he was giving up the will to live to actually write, and there was like some sloppy storytelling, and it was frustrating. The ending was incredibly frustrating for various reasons, but I can't recommend The Book Thief enough, even if you don't like historical fiction, because it's more about the relationships and like family and tragedy, and it's a really wonderful novel. And I don't want to give any big spoilers, but there's a character that Liesel and her family come across in the book who they help, and it's just that character shares the story with Liesel, and it just opens her eyes to everything. And that's another point I really like to quickly mention about this book as well. I really love the way that Markus, he chose to focus on Nazi Germany and show it from like a different perspective. So like for historical fiction, I thought it was really nice to actually see the other side and see that it just reminds people that there's so many different stories. And I mean, it can be easy to like get caught up with the idea that, oh, you know, Nazi Germany and everything, it was like really evil, but this novel just proves that no, it reminds you that there were good people, and there were people who didn't agree with what was happening to their country, but they had no choice because it was obviously being occupied by the Nazi party, so they had to go along with the ideology, but they didn't necessarily agree with it. So I really highly recommend The Book Thief, and hopefully I can share some other stories that I've been reading with you. But if anyone's watched this, thank you, and it's just I can't praise it enough. And I don't know if this review is any good, but I mean, like I said, it's really hard to give a review without like spoiling the magic and everything. So thank you and goodbye.